My yard had always been my canvas, a place where I could let my creativity run wild. So naturally, it transformed into a vibrant festival ground. Colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, playful sculptures dotted the lawn, and the air buzzed with excitement. I'd arranged for a little stage for local pet talent, set up makeshift stalls, and even had a DIY photo booth ready for capturing candid moments of our neighborhood's four-legged residents. As I stood back and surveyed my handiwork, a sense of pride washed over me. This wasn't just a party. It was a rebellion against the bland, rule-bound world of our HOA, a small but significant burst of freedom in an otherwise gray existence. Little did I know, however, that my plans for an afternoon of pet joy were about to run headfirst into the rigid world of community standards. And when that happened, I was ready to fight for every wagging tail and purring feline. Just as I was soaking in the joy of my perfectly planned pet parade setup, banners fluttering, neighbors gathering, and pets eagerly scampering about, the peaceful hum of the afternoon was suddenly interrupted. Out of nowhere, two individuals in mismatched khaki uniforms emerged at the edge of my property. Their attire, complete with cheap plastic badges and oversized clipboards, screamed unauthorized enforcer, and they looked far too serious to be enjoying a sunny day. I watched, a mixture of amusement and rising irritation, as they began to walk slowly toward the parade area. Their eyes darted around suspiciously, as if they were expecting to find something out of order. One of them, a man with a stiff posture and a clipboard clutched tightly in his hand, stopped in front of me and cleared his throat in that overly formal, "I'm the law" tone. The other, a woman with oversized sunglasses that seemed to block all warmth from her expression, stood silently by his side, her gaze fixed on the colorful chaos unfolding on my lawn. Without any preamble or friendly introduction, the man launched into a recitation of rules, mumbling something about unauthorized decorative displays and aesthetic uniformity violations. His tone was so detached and robotic that I couldn't help but think he was reading from a script he'd memorized at a community seminar on conformity. At that moment, I realized that my humble pet parade, my burst of creative freedom, had attracted the unwelcome attention of the very forces that sought to maintain the neighborhood's bland order. Their presence was as unexpected as it was intrusive, and I knew right then that the spirit of rebellion was about to face its first test. Before I could even rally the first hints of a crowd, the enforcers stepped forward with all the pomp of a misguided drill team. With their clipboards held high and their expressions set in stone, they began issuing stern warnings about unauthorized pet activities and aesthetic violations. I could hardly believe my ears as they recited obscure rules meant to suppress any splash of creativity. I strode up to them, my voice steady and firm. "Excuse me, but my pet parade isn't a violation. It's a celebration of creativity and community spirit." I glanced over at my neighbors and saw a few raised eyebrows and curious smiles. Even my pets seemed to sense that something important is happening. One of the enforcers, a man with a clipboard that looked like it had seen better days, shot me a look that said, "We mean business." He continued, "You are in clear violation of community guidelines regarding decorative displays." The woman at his side adjusted her oversized sunglasses, her tone icy as she added, "Your event disrupts the uniform aesthetic we've all agreed to maintain." I couldn't help but laugh. Disrupt? Look around. You've got kids laughing, dogs barking, and a parade of pets bringing joy. This isn't disruption, it's life. I waved a hand toward the vibrant scene behind me, where a pug in a bow tie trotted past and a calico cat strutted like it owned the block. Their rigid stances wavered slightly, but they persisted, demanding that I immediately shut down the parade and remove all unauthorized decorations. My heart pounded not with fear, but with a fierce resolve. I wasn't going to roll over while these so-called enforcers tried to curb the free spirit of our community. In that moment, it was clear. This wasn't just about my yard. It was about standing up to a system that sought to sanitize every bit of individuality. And I wasn't about to let them take away the joy that these furry friends brought to our neighborhood. No sooner had I finished my defiant retort than the situation took a turn that I could have only imagined in a cartoon. The fake HOA enforcers, looking ever more rigid in their poorly pressed uniforms, decided that mere words wouldn't be enough. They stepped closer, and I could see a plan forming in their eyes to physically disperse the parade. Before I knew it, one of them lunged forward and reached out to grab the leash of a particularly feisty terrier, as if to remove the source of the disturbance. The terrier, however, was having none of it. With a burst of energy, it yanked free from the enforcer's grasp, barking triumphantly. The sudden movement sent the enforcer staggering back, nearly tripping over his own feet. Not to be outdone, the woman in oversized sunglasses tried to shoo away a calico cat that was strutting right through the crowd, her hand raised in a commanding gesture. But the cat, in true feline fashion, simply arched its back, hissed, and darted off into a cluster of admiring onlookers, leaving her flustered and her clipboard wobbling precariously. At that moment, chaos erupted. Neighbors, who had been watching with a mix of shock and amusement, began to rally around their pets. A dog owner picked up a water hose, playfully spraying a nearby enforcer who looked more than a little confused. Laughter replaced tension as the scene turned from a standoff into a playful revolt. It was as if every pet in the parade had suddenly decided that they were done with being treated as nuisances. The furry rebellion was on, and these enforcers were no match for an army of determined, four-legged protesters and their human allies. My heart pounded, not out of fear, but with a fierce excitement. This was more than a pet parade now. It was a full-blown battle for creative freedom and community joy. And in that moment, it became crystal clear. If these enforcers thought they could silence us with force, they were about to get a very colorful, very loud dose of resistance. As the commotion reached its peak, neighbors laughing, pets frolicking, and enforcers scrambling to regain control, I realized it was time to drop the twist. I stepped forward with a confident smile, holding up a freshly printed permit from the local council. Actually, I announced, loud enough for everyone to hear, this pet parade is fully permitted by the city. A hush fell over the crowd. The enforcers exchanged uneasy glances. It wasn't just any permit. It was a legally binding document that validated our entire celebration of furry freedom. And then came the beloved champion, a golden retriever named Baxter, known around town not only for his dazzling smile and impeccable obedience, but also as the favorite companion of our local police chief. Baxter trotted into the circle, adorned with a bright bandana and the proud air of a true hero. His presence alone sent a clear message. This parade was supported by the community's best, and even authority figures had to take notice. The enforcers looked visibly rattled. Their authority was crumbling in the face of legal backing and a canine champion who embodied the spirit of the neighborhood. Neighbors cheered, and even the fake enforcers couldn't hide their uncertainty. In that split second, the narrative shifted. Our parade wasn't just a whimsical display of pet antics. It was an officially sanctioned, community-endorsed revolution. The permit and Baxter's triumphant march turned the tide, leaving no doubt. Our right to celebrate art, life, and the joy our pets bring was completely unassailable. Just when it seemed the enforcers were starting to regain their composure, I knew it was time to turn up the volume. I reached for my phone and fired off a quick group message to every neighbor who had ever expressed a love for our little slice of suburban freedom. Within minutes, my phone buzzed with responses, confirmations, cheers, and even a few humorous emojis of barking dogs. Across the block, a flurry of activity began. One neighbor grabbed his portable speaker and started pumping upbeat tunes. Another rushed to her car to pick up a megaphone, and soon a ripple of solidarity spread through the community. It wasn't just my pet parade anymore. It was a neighborhood uprising. The phrase "sound the bark alarm" wasn't just a playful tagline. It became our rallying cry. People began streaming live videos, sharing photos of colorful costumes and wagging tails, and posting hashtags like #FurryRevolution and #PetParadePower on social media. The enforcers, already rattled by the permit and Baxter's triumphant appearance, now found themselves facing an entire community united in celebration. It was clear they were outnumbered, outsupported, and outfunned by a block full of neighbors who had decided that creativity and pet joy could not be suppressed. In that charged moment, the air vibrated with a newfound energy. The call for backup had been sounded, and every resident was now a part of our colorful, furry revolution. In no time at all, the sound of one phone notification became a chorus. My simple group message exploded into a flood of texts, tweets, and social media posts. Neighbors I'd only exchanged nods with before now emerged, energized and ready to join the cause. Mrs. Daniels, who never left her garden without a perfectly pruned rose, showed up with her dachshund wearing a tiny bandana. Mr. Lee, known for his stoic silence, surprised everyone by donning a colorful pet costume he'd apparently kept secret for a special occasion. And every driveway on the block transformed into a mini pet parade of its own, each resident proudly displaying their furry, feathered, or scaly companions. Portable speakers cranked out anthems of freedom, while impromptu dance-offs broke out among neighbors. Children cheered, tossing confetti from their windows, and even the local mail carrier paused to capture the joyous chaos on his phone. This wasn't just a parade anymore. It was a full-blown uprising. The vibrant energy was undeniable. Every wagging tail and playful bark was a defiant middle finger to a system that tried to stifle our creativity. In that moment, our block was united, every pet and owner determined to celebrate life and color in the face of oppressive rules. The enforcers, now isolated and overwhelmed, looked around in disbelief as the community's spirit swelled. The furry uprising was in full swing, and nothing could stop it now. When it looked like the enforcers might salvage their dignity, I pulled out my phone and started broadcasting the scene live. The moment was electric. Neighbors gathered around, and within seconds, our community's social media was lit up with real-time comments and shares. The enforcers, who had been spouting off about aesthetic standards and unauthorized pet activities, suddenly found themselves under the microscope. One sharp-eyed neighbor, a local blogger with a reputation for calling out nonsense, zoomed in on their flimsy, home-printed badges and posted a screenshot with a caption like, "These aren't officers, they're just wearing khakis." The scripted lines they'd memorized crumbled as viewers began questioning their legitimacy. Every comment, every like, every share chipped away at their facade of authority. Their rehearsed claims of enforcing community standards melted into awkward silence, and the enforcers exchanged panicked glances. Their words turned to stammers as it became obvious that their credentials were nothing more than props. Under the weight of digital evidence and a united community, the enforcers' bravado evaporated. They started backing away, their expressions a mix of shock and humiliation, as our live stream captured every moment of their downfall. The neighborhood was watching, and they were not impressed. In that charged instant, the truth was clear. These enforcers were imposters with no real authority. And as they slowly retreated, the cheers and applause from our community filled the air, proving that truth and creativity always win over oppressive conformity. After the enforcers retreated, humiliated and exposed, the energy in the neighborhood shifted from tension to jubilant celebration. The pet parade, once under threat, erupted into a full-blown festival of color, fur, and community spirit. Neighbors gathered on lawns, sharing high-fives and hearty laughs, while music played on portable speakers set up by a resourceful local DJ. Every yard became a mini-stage for pet tricks, impromptu costume contests, and the spontaneous dance of both pets and their owners. The event wasn't just about defiance, it was a showcase of unity. Children ran with painted faces, adults cheered on their four-legged companions, and even those who'd previously remained silent joined the chorus of celebration. In the midst of it all, I stood back and took it all in with a heart full of pride. My yard had become a living testament to the power of creative resistance and community togetherness. The fake HOA enforcers, with their flimsy badges and hollow authority, faded into a forgotten chapter of a day that would be remembered for the freedom to express ourselves without fear. In that moment, I realized that our neighborhood wasn't just a collection of identical houses. It was a vibrant community where every voice, every bark, and every burst of color had the power to transform the mundane into something extraordinary.